how many beers
Sure.
did you have earlier today at Rams training camp?
Bill Belichick, maybe one of the most overrated coaches in NFL history. I'm just going to throw it out there.
You know what? We don't have time to get into. Woo! Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Cover 2 podcast. My name is Jared Smith.
And I'm Nick Nenad.
Hey, guys, we've got a great show for you today. Not as long as last week's show. We went almost 2 hours. It was pretty crazy, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about. A fun show for you guys today. We're going to talk about some LIV Golf. Nick's been wanting to talk about that. He wanted to talk about it last week, but we just ran out of time. So we're definitely going to get that in today. We're going to do a little NFL preview. Not going to go through all 32 teams, but, listen, training camp is in its second week. We've got the real first week of preseason games coming up this Thursday and Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So some actual live NFL content coming for you guys. So going to give some predictions, talk about some teams, get you revved up a little bit for that. But first, we got to talk about Nick actually just came back from Rams training camp in Irvine, if I'm not mistaken, at UCI. So, he's got a little tan going on. He's got the hair slicked back, got the tank top rolling on. So might have had a couple of brewskis going on. So Nick's feeling good. But no, man, tell us about the experience. What's it like being at Rams camp? What's the setup, or where were you sitting? Did you get an autograph? Did you talk to anyone? How was it?
Jared, I've been to a couple of these training camps, and I feel like this one was more to document for the podcast and to get some news. And I do have a bit of news to release. Now, I think this is not going to be news by the time this podcast actually is released. It will more than likely be released Tuesday or Wednesday. But when I was at Rams training camp Monday, which is I just was at about an hour ago, Matthew Stafford, who's dealing with an elbow issue, did not pass a single ball the entire time. He was there, he attended, but he did not throw a single ball. So we're hearing these rumors about his elbow being messed up, something going on, an abnormal issue with his elbow. And then here I am live, and he is not throwing the ball. He's participating as a good leader, but he's not throwing the ball. So a bit of news there. Matthew Stafford, in his second to last training camp here at Irvine, California, did not throw a single pass. Maybe Tuesday he throws a couple passes, and this all doesn't matter. But for right now, didn't throw a ball. Jared, any comments on that, just to kind of start the podcast, because I feel like that's newsworthy. It's the Super Bowl champs.
See, here's the thing. It is, but it's like I said, we're in the second week of training camp, right? And I think precautionary is one of the most used and most common words that a team or a coach is going to use when talking to the media about a player in training camp. Like, if there is any sense of an injury, a nick, a bruise, most teams are going to be precautionary unless you're a rookie or an undrafted free agent or someone who's trying to make the team. But if you're a veteran, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, right, making the money that Matthew Stafford is making, I'm pretty sure Sean McVay is going to do everything they can to make sure he's ready for week one. And they don't necessarily give a shit about, a training camp practice when we're in the first, going into the second week of August. So I don't think it's a big deal. If we come to week one or close to week one and this elbow injury is still lingering, then I think we've got a major story. But right now,
damn right. Yeah.
Listen, if I'm Sean McVay, I wouldn't have even put him in pads, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he was still out there with pads. He had his helmet on.
He was in pads.
I would have bubble wrapped him and said, hey, man, like, you're going to go, like, sit with the fans and sign some autographs. That's like the only thing that you can do with your right hand is sign autographs. Other than that, you're not doing anything. So no big deal for me. Let's wait until we get to week one, and then we can press the alarm button.
Jay, I think it's a big deal. Okay, because there's a difference between someone sitting out training camp like Aaron Donald did today. Jalen Ramsey was on very limited reps, took his pads off 45 minutes into practice. That's different. Those guys aren't being reported to have an injury to their most important limb. Okay, Jared, I think an elbow issue in any sport where you throw something is a big deal. Okay, and so I think this is something to look at. And if they're saying he has an abnormal issue with his elbow, I think this is cause for concern for Rams fans. You don't want your quarterback not being able to to full potential. We've seen quarterbacks, have arm issues out there in play, but they weren't the same. Let me give you an example. Cam Newton, right? All those shoulder issues, it turned him into a player that he didn't used to be. So I know Matthew Stafford's a little longer in the tooth. He's been around a little longer. You expect injuries, but the fact that they're not even using him at practice, he's not throwing a single ball, a little bit concerning. I get being precautionary, but it was weird out there to have John Wolford and Bryce Perkins throw every single pass today.
I mean, okay, I'll say this as well, right? You want to bring up like a specific scenario. Last offseason, the quarterback, Dak Prescott, right, the Cowboys. Number one, he was coming off a gruesome leg injury, and so he was rehabbing and going through training camp. He ends up getting I believe it was a shoulder injury, and it could have been because he was overusing his shoulder because he maybe wasn't necessarily trusting his leg fully yet. But he had a shoulder injury to his right throwing shoulder as well, and he had to miss some practice time where he wasn't throwing the ball either, right? And like I said, he comes into the regular season, he breaks all these records, at least in Dallas Cowboys history. So, like I said, I don't think it's a big deal. I think they're just being precautionary with this. And like I said, he's also a veteran. And Sean McVay and the Rams, they don't play their starters in preseason games. So even if Matthew Stafford was healthy and throwing in practice, he ain't going to play in these preseason games like none of the starters do, unless you're on the fringe of being a starter or a backup player. So, like it to me, no big deal. Don't press the panic button right now until we get to. I think this is because of your Cardinal fandom that you don't wish any harm on anyone, right?
No.
But if someone's got a little nick or something that's going to potentially affect them when it comes to being at their best, and they just so happen to have coming off winning a Super Bowl in your Cardinals division, I think that's where this panic red button is coming from. I think in reality, that this isn't a big deal, but you want it to be a big deal so that the Rams suffer and aren't as good and, don't win the Super Bowl again next year. I think that's what it is.
No comment. No comment on that.
Yeah. I hit the nail on the head. I got you. It's all good. It's like, listen. If we were talking about the Eagles, the Giants, or the Commanders right now, I'd be saying the same thing, right? But fortunately, Dak is clear and far better than any of the other quarterbacks. So I don't care if the other quarterbacks are at 100%. I hope Carson Wentz is at 100%. I hope Daniel Jones is at 100%, right? They're still going to suck. So Matthew Stafford at least is a good quarterback, and you kind of want him a little dinged up. So I understand what you're saying. It's all good.
Sure. No, that's fine. And so, guys, it's fun to report from Rams camp there, but I think the rest of this podcast, before we get to the live talk, is just going to be straight football talk. So I want to get to another topic that I know Jared Smith will be interested in. If you followed our social media all week, Jared and I we disagree on a key element or a key video that's going on. Let me update you guys. Just if you don't know, there was a few videos that came out of Cowboys star cornerback TREVON Diggs getting beat again and again and again and again by the likes of CeeDee Lamb and the likes of nobodies. Okay. A lot of people were skeptical of TREVON Diggs' interception, stats last year that they were like, how is this guy doing this every week? All that stuff. And then what happens? I think Cowboy fans got at him like many big fan bases will, and he deleted his social media. So I told Jared, all us, like the Matt Stafford stuff, I think this is a bigger deal than people are saying. I know it's practice. I know it's training camp. We ain't Allen Iverson here. But Jared Smith, I'm here to claim that TREVON Diggs getting beat, much like he did a lot last year, I think it's a big deal, and I think Cowboys fans are in for not the best time with TREVON Diggs next year, and I think he was a little bit overrated. What are your comments on these multiple videos of TREVON Diggs getting smoked in practice?
All right, so let me just get this out of the way. No one wants to see a cornerback on the team that you like getting burned multiple plays in a row during practice. All right. Like, obviously, I want to see TREVON Diggs making plays. Now, it's great to see Dak and the receiver or whatever quarterback is throwing to CeeDee Lamb or those receivers. It's cool to see them, getting some rhythm and completing passes. But you also want to see your defender make a play or get a pick or at least knock down a ball, right? So I'm not going to sit here and be naive and say like, no big deal, right? 100%. But I'm also going to say this. TREVON Diggs likes to take chances, right? And what I said on Twitter is there's a potential from someone who used to play cornerback. In practice, you try different techniques, right? I think what he's trying to do right now is saying, if I'm going to get burnt, it's going to be in practice while I'm trying a specific technique, right? Like maybe I'm trying to play bump coverage, but at the snap of the ball, I'm not gonna press the cornerback with my hands, right? I'm gonna wait and try to mirror his movement and see what he does. So to me, from my little expertise that I have from playing cornerback, I think this is more about him trying to try out different techniques and perfect certain techniques, right? And clearly, some of those aren't working, right? So maybe he just needs to go back to his pure athleticism and what he was originally taught by Nick Saban at Alabama, because clearly that worked, at least from an instinctive standpoint. So, like I said, it's practice. I ain't pushing the big red button. This is not a big deal. Also, I said this on Twitter. I actually did another tweet, and I said, you know what? I keep sleeping on him, right? The rest of the league, the rest of the NFC East, go ahead, keep sleeping on him. Go ahead and think that he's not a top 10 cornerback, because I want teams to throw at him. TREVON Diggs is going to continue to get his hands on balls. He's going to continue to get picks. That is what he does. Will he, from time to time, give up a big play? Yes. But that, to me, that's because he's a risk taker, right? He's not one of these corners that is just going to sit back and like let everything play in front of him. He's going to take chances. And yeah, there is a risk and reward factor, right? Sometimes you're going to make a play, and a big play at that. And other times you're going to look like crap and you're going to get completely burnt. I think that's just who TREVON Diggs is. I think that's his personality. Formerly as a wide receiver when he initially went to Alabama, and then transitioning to the cornerback spot. So let's remember that as well. He's only played corner, I think, for 4 or maybe 5 years, right? So not to say that he should not have, let's say, perfected his craft by now. But I think, like I said, he's still learning the position, and it's not like he's played corner his entire life. So I'm going to pump the brakes here a little bit, and you can say this is because I'm a Cowboys fan, but I would say this if it was any other cornerback in the league. Practice is the time to try certain things. Now, if he does play in the preseason, right? If we get into preseason situations and he's continuing to give up these big plays, that's when I would start to not panic, but be a little more worried. Right. Let's get into some game situations and let's see what TREVON Diggs does, because I don't think he's going to be giving up those back-to-back big plays like we've seen in practice. And then the last thing I'll say before I toss it back to you, I believe it was today, Monday the 8th, he was being interviewed by the press after practice. And, they clearly asked him, why'd you delete your Twitter? Right. Like you're a high-profile
Damn
player.
right.
You can't just delete your Twitter and think no one's going to say anything. And the main words that he said was, Twitter is toxic. So take what you will with that. I don't really know what to make of it. I think he was probably hurt by all the backlash he was getting. And so he probably deleted it because he didn't want to turn on his phone and see a million comments about how bad he's been sucking in training camp. So that's what I really think. But his words, quote unquote, were, Twitter is toxic.
Twitter is toxic. Doesn't mean Twitter's wrong all the time. And I think that Cam deleting Twitter means he might have known that he was messing up there and that he wasn't playing well. Hey, Jared, maybe he had a bad day, but you can't go about it with these social media babies who delete all their stuff. And come on. I tried to @ Kyler Murray in a couple of our promotion videos. He won't let anybody. It's just, the whole thing, man. The guy won't let anybody tag him in anything. Okay? It's so annoying.
Unless it's Call of Duty. If you add Call of Duty in there,
of course,
I guarantee you we can get him.
Of course. Where's my Call of Duty stuff? I need to find it again. It's right here, right? This is where I found it yesterday or the other day. Yeah, Jerry, I'm just saying, there's where there's smoke, there's fire. If you're deleting your Twitter, deleting your Instagram, maybe you have been messing up, and maybe you do know that, like, maybe this is not going to be the best start of the season. I don't know. Let's move on. I think this will make you a little bit happier, these next few, okay? So we're on the trend of videos again, okay? And one of these is a video that came out, and two of these is a report. Okay, I'll go to the reports first. Reports quarterback-wise are that Mac Jones and Carson Wentz have been inaccurate and are not playing well. So that's part one of it. Part two is the video of Daniel Jones just clearly missing targets. Okay, all three of these teams, maybe not the Giants, but at least the other two, are kind of on the fringe of being either really bad teams or potentially playoff teams. I'm not going to put Daniel Jones in there and the Giants in there, but they could, you never know, step up and potentially make the playoffs. So for me, Jared Smith, let me toss it to you again. Are any of these big deals? Is there smoke where there's fire? What do you think about all three of these quarterback issues going on in NFC East and AFC East?
The only one that caught my interest and the one that I even want to talk about and waste my breath on is Mac Jones, right? He's coming into his second year, right? He started right out of the gate as a rookie in a Bill Belichick-led offense and Bill Belichick-led team, right? So he's coming into year two where you would think things would start to slow down. He can become more comfortable, become more of a leader within that team and that organization. And I think all of those things are true. Here's the problem. Josh McDaniels, his offensive coordinator last year, is now the head coach with the Las Vegas Raiders. And Bill Belichick came out this offseason and said that he is not naming specifically an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. So if you're Mac Jones, who are you directly kind of reporting to, right? Like, I've heard rumors that it's Joe Judge, the former New York Giants head coach who has come back as an assistant under the Patriots organization. I've heard that Matt Patricia, the former head coach of the Detroit Lions, who has also come back to the Patriots as an assistant, is helping out with the offense. Weirdly enough, Matt Patricia is known as a defensive coordinator and a defensive-minded coach. So the fact that Bill Belichick has him on the offensive side of the ball is a little interesting. But then again, when you win, 7 Super Bowls or however many hell Super Bowls Bill Belichick has won, he pretty much gets the leeway to do whatever he wants. That point being said, Mac Jones does not have an offensive coordinator. He's also learning a new system. So to me, it would make more sense why maybe he's struggling in practice or maybe why he doesn't look as comfortable as you would think he would going into year two. Really quick, because I don't even want to talk about these guys. Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz are both veterans who have had chance after chance after chance after chance after chance to prove themselves. There's a reason why the New York Giants organization did not pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. That's the reason why he is going into this 2022 season in its final year, right? Like if he does not play well, he will be a free agent and the Giants will cut him, right? I guarantee there will not be many teams that will be knocking on Daniel Jones' door saying, we want you after this season if he does not produce. Carson Wentz has been on 3 teams in the last 3 years, going on 3 teams in the last 3 years, right? There is a reason for that. If you are a quarterback and you play well, you do not get released. You do not get traded, right? We have seen it, but it's for a lot more in return. Carson Wentz, there's a reason why you've been on 3 teams in 3 years, because you suck. You're not that good. He will make one great play, one great throw, and then he will take 2 steps back and throw an interception. So I love it. As a Cowboys fan in the NFC East, it makes my Sundays when the Cowboys are playing those teams a lot easier to watch. But the only story here is the fact that Mac Jones is going into his second year having to learn a new offense, a new system, and no offensive coordinator. We see it year after year after year, right? That's where some quarterbacks completely fall off. The Josh Rosens of the world, the Sam Darnolds of the world, the list goes on and on and on. It's not necessarily just about the quarterback and their production on the field. It also has to go into the classroom and the locker room. Can they get comfortable with the system, year in and year out, right? It's one reason Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys have been successful is because they've had the same coaching staff, the same offensive system, and they've had a chance to get comfortable. And Mac Jones is not necessarily off to that hot start.
Yeah, I mean, Jared, what you said about a lot of this, I can't even disagree with necessarily. I think I just want to give my comments. I'll just be stirred with this one. I truly don't understand how Daniel Jones is still a starting quarterback in this league. I really don't.
But I love it.
And I don't mean to I don't mean to knock the guy down. He was a top pick.
Do it.
But I mean, what are the Giants doing? Why would you just give up a season like this? I mean, Jared, you can agree with me on this. Why would you just give up on the season? You have one of the easier divisions in football. No offense to the Cowboys. But, like, I mean, the Eagles are up and coming, but they're not great, right? The Commanders can't ever figure it out. They're one of the worst franchises in sports. And the Cowboys often, don't play up to their potential or don't play up to their roster. So for the Giants to have gone this many years in this division and not even been close because they just keep playing this quarterback that I will never forget tripped on a wide open running touchdown. I mean, Jared, like, who else is on their roster right now? Why didn't they draft somebody? Why don't they have a veteran like a Baker Mayfield or a Sam Darnold? Like, come on. They couldn't even get Jacoby Brissett to be a backup for this team. If it's Daniel Jones or nothing. I mean, if you're a New York Giants fan, give the year up. I'm sorry. Like, give the year up. You're going to end up 5-11 at best. And I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Carson Wentz, I can't figure the guy out. He was a super MVP, literally, with the Eagles. Then his backup wins the Super Bowl. Makes no sense. And then now he's gone, what would you say, 3 teams in 3 years? And he's been okay every year, right? Like, interception machine. You know, if he's inaccurate, like the reports are saying, and Ron Rivera isn't, he's not concerned, you should be concerned. Because when Cam Newton was inaccurate, your team was terrible. Okay? So, maybe River Ron, isn't the greatest coach we think he is, right? Maybe he needs awesome defense like he did with when they went to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm not sure. And to be honest, for the Patriots and Mac Jones, I think the Patriots suck. I think they have one of the worst rosters in the NFL right now. Maybe their defense can make that, not a thing. Offensively, though, horrible. Absolutely terrible. And Mac Jones is a second-year quarterback. I'm not even saying Mac Jones is a bad quarterback. Jared, you mentioned great things about the coaching staff, that they have essentially no coaches. Everybody just kind of talks, right? No specific coaches. Everyone just kind of, hey, you think? Oh, I think so. It's a stupid way of coaching, in my opinion. But one of the worst rosters on offense. The guy's not going to do much better with that. Their defense is okay. They lost a lot to retirement and free agency, even after that big splurge a couple years ago. So I think we're looking at 3 non-playoff teams there. And I think it's because of the quarterback. Mainly. Daniel Jones, 100% in New York. Washington, dysfunctional franchise, tough to be there, probably not the best vibe. And I think with Mac Jones, he's not good enough to put them in the playoffs. They have obviously a great coaching staff in Bill Belichick, but yeah, I think it's a quarterback issue. I will say this too. Clearly, Tom Brady was the reason they won those Super Bowls. Bill Belichick has not been a great coach since Tom Brady left. And I will stand on that stone forever. Bill Belichick, maybe one of the most overrated coaches in NFL history. I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay? Going to throw it out there. I know he won Super Bowls. I know he's created a good staff. But none of his staff has gone on and really been that successful, right? Maybe besides Brian Flores, but then look what happened to him, right? Obviously couldn't build a culture over in Miami. And they look to be a potential playoff team this year. Brady does not win any of those Super Bowls, potentially. I'm just throwing it out there. Look at it now. Look at the last 3 years.
I got a question. How many beers
Sure.
did you have earlier today at Rams training camp? Because
none. I had one.
Liar. You know what? We don't have time to get into. What? Check us out on Twitter later, because we're going to continue that Bill Belichick just blasphemy that Nick Nenad just said, the most overrated NFL coach, if I'm not mistaken. Those were your exact words. Woo! Wow, that's some breaking news, right? We haven't really had much breaking news over the weekend as far as sports, as far as injuries or anything going on. That is some breaking news right there, that Bill Belichick is the most overrated coach. Okay, All right. We're going to get to this on Twitter. If you follow us on the Cover 2 podcast, or especially if you don't, you need to, because we will continue that there. We don't have all the time in the world to dig into that now. But Nick Nenad just said that Bill Belichick is the most overrated coach in the NFL, or in NFL history. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay. First of all, I said maybe, but that does not mean that I'm saying no.
Oh, no.
Okay.
You open the door. Open the door to this.
Sure.
I don't care if it was a maybe. The fact that
come
you
after
even
me
thought
after
that
that.
in your
Say it.
head proves to me.
I've been thinking it for a whole year.
Crazy.
Jared, I've been thinking for a whole year. Okay, I'm trying to get a stat up here real quickly.
Listen,
it's the reason this team didn't make the playoffs.
You're not wrong that Tom Brady is the main reason why the Patriots had that dynasty and why they won 7 Super Bowls.
Only
you
reason.
ain't wrong about that. But Bill Belichick has a lot to do with that. I'll give you some credit. You also did say another thing. A lot of his assistant coaches that have gone on to be head coaches, they haven't necessarily succeeded and had long tenures. What happens is a lot of them get a coaching opportunity. The coach for 2 or 3 years get fired, and then they come back. Right? It's like the New England Patriots organization is like the safe house. It's like, all right, you can branch out on your own, but if you don't make it, you can always come back home. Right? It's like when you go off to college and then you think you're gonna, go and get a fancy job and buy a house or get your own apartment right away, and then you figure out that things are expensive and you don't have the money to buy your own stuff, so you have to move back in with your parents. That's pretty much what happens with these coordinators, offensively and defensively. They branch out and they think they can do their thing on their own, and then they have to come back. So you're not wrong about that. But Bill Belichick specifically, oh no, my friend, you must be drunk right now. You just lied to the American public and said that you only had 1 beer today. There's no way.
Jared Smith, I had 1 beer. Ask my homie Preston, who I went to Rams camp with. Let me just throw this out there, okay? I am obviously basing this off a small amount of, statistics, info, all this stuff. But never forget, if you think the Cardinals played the worst playoff game last year, let me remind you that the New England Patriots got absolutely shellacked by the Buffalo Bills, who didn't end up winning a Super Bowl, by the way. They were just the playoff team, okay? And the New England Patriots, who have potentially the best coach in history, the Bills didn't punt, okay? They didn't punt the whole game. They scored on every drive. The Patriots were unsuccessful in every single defensive possession. I'm just saying, Cliff Kingsbury didn't do that. Just throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there. Jared, we'll continue on Twitter. We need to move on. And this actually could be the same team. Let's move to. I want you, Jared, to give me a team that you think is on the rise that not many people are talking about, and I want you to give me a team that you think is highly overrated coming into the season. So give me one or the other. You can give me one, and I'll give you one, and then we can go back and forth. But eventually, I want you to give me kind of your overrated team and your underrated team coming into the season. Obviously, this is pre-injuries, pre-most stuff. We'll do our full predictions in a couple weeks for the NFL season. Mm-hmm. We'll have a giant show. We'll probably have some guests on that show as well. But a little preview of the season. Give me your overrated and underrated team.
All right, so let's do. We'll start with the fun stuff. We'll start with the underrated team, a team that maybe hasn't made a lot of noise or doesn't get a lot of off-season credit. Not being talked about a lot, but coming into this 2022 season, if they stay healthy, of course, if things fall their way, I think this team can be a little more dangerous than people think. That is the New Orleans Saints. Now, you got Jameis Winston coming off the ACL, right? And I think that's one of the biggest question marks is Jameis going to Jameis, right? Because we know he's got the arm, he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he has all the intangibles, the measurables, all that stuff. But obviously on the field, sometimes his head starts to spin and things don't always add up. But when you've got Alvin Kamara in the backfield, when you've got a decent offensive line, when you've got Mike Thomas, who hopefully is coming back healthy after basically missing 2 years of NFL football. But the last time he played a full season, the last time he played a full season, he was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year, setting a record with, I think it was 143 catches in the season. So Mike Thomas can ball, obviously. and then you draft Chris Olave, the smoothest route running wide receiver in the entire draft, right? So that offensively, they also bring in Jarvis Landry as the slot receiver, right? Jarvis Landry comes home to Louisiana, played at LSU, so you know he's going to be motivated at the ball. So I think offensively, the Saints, if Jameis Winston can just keep his head, together, keep his head straight, and not lose games for them, Jameis Winston is going to lead this team to the playoffs. Defensively, they are to me, they're an underrated defensive team. They do not get talked about enough. They have a good front. You got Cameron Jordan leading the defensive line, Demario Davis leading the linebacker group, Marshawn Lattimore leading that secondary. And if you look back the last 2 years since Tom Brady has been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, the New Orleans Saints have given Tom Brady and that team problems. That defense knows how to come to play, right? So I think, Dennis Allen taking over for Sean Payton, the familiarity there, because Dennis Allen has been a defensive coordinator for a couple of years, right? So he's stepping in to a new role, but it's still his same voice. It's not like they have a complete new leader. So I think this New Orleans Saints team has the pieces, on paper at least, to come out and be effective this season. And I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they have a solid chance to get a wild card spot as long as things roll their way. So to me, that's a team that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, but a team that come this season, I think is going to make more noise than you think. What do you think about that?
Jared, they're one of those teams that's right on the cusp. And what you're saying, it makes total sense. I'm not going to disagree, because I do think that if Jameis plays to the ability that he played in college, right, which he won a championship with a team that often, the top tier of college football, I think that he can. I think they can make playoffs. I don't know if they're necessarily a Super Bowl contender, but I do think they're one of those teams right now where, if you look at the NFC, which is clearly the kind of worst conference, not by much, but they are the worst, the easier one to make the playoffs in. They're one of those teams that's right there for that those last two wildcard spots. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all. All right, my underrated team is the Las Vegas. Okay, now a little bit of this is based on me kind of seeing their full roster in the Hall of Fame game. The Raiders didn't play a lot of guys. They did play Josh Jacobs, in that game, but there was no Derek Carr, no Devontae Adams, no Hunter Renfrow, no Darren Waller. And a lot of the defensive guys, Chandler Jones, those kind of guys didn't play either. But seeing kind of the rest of the roster, it kind of made me think, like, this is a pretty talented team. When you look on offense, obviously, I think Derek Carr might be one of the most underrated players in the NFL, period. Two, he gets Devontae Adams, okay? He already has Hunter Renfrow, and they just throw in Keelan Cole on this roster at wide receiver, too. He's been 1A, 1B in Jacksonville. Say what you want about Jacksonville, and if you're a starter in Jacksonville, does that really matter? But now he's number 3. Also add Darren Waller. I think this offensive line is interesting. You have Colton Miller, Alex Leatherwood, who I think is highly underrated, Lester Cotton, who's come up. Then you look at the defense. All they did was add talent, add Chandler Jones, who's a Pro Bowl player, Jaylen Brown. You also have Jonathan Abram, Denzel Perryman, Max Crosby. Darren, this is an underrated team. I think this team, I'll throw this out there, 100% they're going to be last place in the AFC West. And I think also 100% I think they make the playoffs. So those are my two predictions. I think they make the playoffs, and they're not last place in the AFC West, because I think you could be last place in the AFC West and still make the playoffs. So I think they'll be ahead of either the Chargers, the Chiefs, or the Broncos when the standings come out. This is a highly underrated team. New coach, Josh McDaniels. You get rid of Gruden. You get rid of all that just horribleness from last year, right? Remember, 1A, a bad call in that playoff game against the Bengals, and maybe the Raiders are in the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Rams. I'm just throwing it out there, right? So I think this is a highly underrated team. And to be honest, I don't think it matters what happens with Josh Jacobs. They still have Zamir White, Kenyon Drake, Amir Abdul in that backfield. I think this is a solid team. Very, very underrated. Jared, your thoughts?
Here's what I'm saying. You didn't say anything wrong when describing the Las Vegas Raiders and what they could potentially do this year. Here's where I disagree with you. I don't think they're underrated or sneaking up on anybody. Okay. You bring in a new coaching staff, right, to take away all that toxic negativity from last year. You go out and trade for Devontae Adams, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the league. You pay him $1 bajillion, right? He at one point was or I believe he might still be the highest paid wide receiver in the entire league. To pair him with a Darren Waller at tight end, with a Hunter Renfrow in the slot, right? You still have Josh Jacobs. You have a good offensive line. On the defensive side, you bring in Chandler Jones to pair with Max Crosby. The one area where I'll kind of be hesitant with this Raiders team is their secondary. I think they're a little light and they don't have the depth in the secondary. So that's going to be some trouble going against the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Russell Wilson in that division. But that Raiders team as a whole, to me, I don't think they're underrated or sneaking up on anyone. So I agree with how you describe them, but I don't think they're underrated.
Sure, and that's fair. And that was my one thought about picking this team, is that they actually might not be underrated, and they might be right rated, kind of where they need to be, right? And I think what I'm saying is comparing it to the rest of the AFC West, because that division potentially could be, like, if you lined up, could be the 4 teams playing for the Super Bowl, right? Like if 2 of those teams were NFC and 2 of them were AFC, those 4 teams might be literally the 4 best teams in the NFL. Just throwing it out there. Or at least would have a chance to, based on scheduling. So I think that's kind of what I'm saying. I think they're overlooked in the AFC West because of Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert. I think those guys' names get thrown up there. Russell Wilson's got a meme attached to him now. Patrick Mahomes, he's got his brother dancing all over the place. And Justin Herbert is everybody's favorite new quarterback. So, Derek Carr is lost in the mix with his eyeliner look, right? He's lost in the mix. But remember, guys, they got Devontae freaking Adams, okay? That guy literally single-handedly with Aaron Rodgers led them to multiple long playoff runs. So just saying, underrated. Jared, give me your overrated team. Give me a team that you think is overrated headed into the 2022 NFL season.
Now, this one was a little interesting. You might kind of drop your chin here a little bit, and I'm sorry to say this because I think I'm going to upset a fan of the show, someone who's been on this show multiple times before. I think the Denver Broncos are a little overrated.
No way.
Now listen.
I love it.
Listen. I get it. Russell Wilson, let's ride. The whole slogan. I let Russ cook. I get it. Sierra, beautiful family, love him. Nothing but respect for him and what he did in Seattle. But listen, man, you want to talk about, like, coming into that strong division, right? He knows what a good division is, coming from the NFC West, now going to the AFC West with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, and that Raiders team that you just mentioned. I get it. They brought in some stars. You bring in Russell Wilson, right? Or you trade for Russell Wilson. You bring in Randy Gregory on the defensive side to pair with Bradley Chubb in that defense, right? You had Justin Simmons, one of the best safeties in the league. You draft Pat Surtain Jr. last year, who is already one of the, I would argue, a top 10 corner in the league. At receiver, you have Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, right? Javonte Williams, who was a breakout running back star in his rookie season last year. I get all that. But here's the thing, man. Denver has had the majority of these defensive pieces for the last 3 or 4 years. And what have they done? Right? I get it. They've had Drew Lock the last couple of years. And if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to win games late into the season and in the playoffs. So I understand. But it's not like this team completely did a complete makeover. Right? And Russell Wilson, I don't like to knock you, but your last couple of years in Seattle, what did you really do? Yeah. Now, yes, you did not have an offensive line. You were running for your life more often than not, but you are an elite quarterback, right? And when you are of that stature, when you're getting paid that much money, when people look up to you like that, I think you have to kind of bring more to the table, right? You have to make up for the lack of deficiencies that you have, whether it's at receiver, tight end, running back, offensive line. It doesn't matter. You have to make up for that. And he wasn't able to do that. Now, partly and because the NFC West is so great and it's not a crappy division, but I think this Denver Broncos team is getting a little too much hype, right? I think everyone's just like, oh, wow, Russell Wilson is here. He's going to completely, they're going to score 30, 35 points a game. It's like, listen, guys, you still have to play the AFC West. You still have to get out of that division. And then, by the time you get out of that division at the end of the season, that's going to be rough. If you can do that, then I will be on this Denver Broncos train. I'm just not so sure that in year one, this is going to, magically turn around. This Denver Broncos team is going to go from a non-playoff team to Super Bowl in 1 year. So I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. Year 2, year 3, they keep the core together. Yes, 100%. I think Denver is there. I think they continue to build that camaraderie, that chemistry, and they get better and better and better. Year 1, I think we're blowing a little too much smoke up them right now. I think we need to calm it down a little bit. So that's my overrated team. I don't like to say it. I'm rooting for Russell. I think Denver's going to be a good team, but I don't think it's like, oh, wow, they got Russell Wilson. They have this great defense. They're automatically going to be in the Super Bowl, right? I think they do have somewhat of an injury bug as well. I don't know what's going on in Denver. I don't know what type of water they're drinking up there. But every single year, they unfortunately seem to have a crazy injury. I think they've already lost I think it was Tim Patrick, who tore his ACL or had a season-ending injury already the first week of training camp. So they've already lost one of their major core receiving pieces this year. And, last year, Bradley Chubb, sure. They lose Von Miller. You know what I mean? So it's like every single year, it seems like Denver always has a major injury or something that goes down that kind of derails their season. And I hope that doesn't happen. I'm not wishing that upon anyone. I can't sit here and definitively say Denver is going to make a complete 180 just because of Russell Wilson. I can't.
It's a tough road to go down, Jared. Tough road. You make good points. They are very injury prone. The players that they're relying on to help Russell Wilson now are very injury prone. I do think they're going to be a playoff team. But Jared, I said the Las Vegas Raiders were going to be last place in this AFC West. So I'm not going to disagree with you when you say another AFC West team is overrated, because I threw the Raiders in there as thinking maybe they're a top 2 team in this division. So I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that's going to hurt Alex's feelings a lot. Apparently Jared Smith.
I still love you.
Apparently Jared Smith is not riding with the Denver Broncos this year in Russell Wilson. Okay. So Jared, this was tough for me. Okay. This was tough. My overrated. I want to say the Baltimore Ravens because they have no talent on offense besides running, and Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball. But I don't think a lot of people are high on them. So I don't think they're overrated, right? I wanted to say the Philadelphia Eagles, but then kind of looking over their roster, they had a pretty good roster, okay? So maybe they're rated where they need to be in the NFC East, okay? I thought about the Green Bay Packers, right? Because essentially it's just Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
Well, hold on.
What are we doing? I can go across the list and name every single team and go, pick a team, man. Pick a team.
No, I'm just giving you what I thought. Okay, because we're going to end the segment in a second. I thought about Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know their roster because I don't know who's rating them, right? So I decided to go with the theme of this segment, apparently, the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to stay in the AFC West. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are overrated as hell, okay? I think Patrick Mahomes relied on guys like Tyreek Hill. He does still have Travis Kelce. But they've now lost 2 elements of this offense in Demarcus Robinson and Tyreek Hill. Okay, I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but these running backs tend to not do much for this roster. They're not Super Bowl winners because of the running game. I think this offensive line that has gotten a little bit worse every single year. The defense for the Chiefs isn't the best in the league, right? They had some holes last year. There's a reason the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl. Okay. I think they're extremely overrated. Do I think they're a playoff team? Probably. Do I think they're anywhere near the Super Bowl right now? No. And I think that's where the overrating comes from. Again, the AFC West is that's the division this year. Okay, so based on the where the Chiefs have expected to be the last couple of years, I don't think they're going to touch the Super Bowl. I think they may be 1 and out in the playoffs. Okay, you line up with the Chargers, no way. You line up with Russell Wilson, I got to give it to the Broncos. I think the Raiders could give them fits. You look at the rest of the AFC, I think the Bengals have improved. Okay, I think the Buffalo Bills would still kick the Chiefs' ass in a playoff game. I think the Dolphins would give them fits to is accurate, right? There's a lot here. I mean, hell, if Deshaun Watson somehow plays this season, that Browns roster is damn good too. Okay, so I'm just saying. I think the Chiefs are overrated in the terms of them being a Super Bowl contender. I disagree. Jared? You think I'm going a little over the top here, or do you kind of agree with the fact that they're supposed to be Super Bowl contenders? I don't think they are at all.
I hear your arguments, and I get it. It's just, here's the thing, and I didn't even mention this with the Denver Broncos. They also have a new head coach, a rookie head coach who has never been a head coach in the league before, right? And he got a lot of praise for being an offensive coordinator in Green Bay. But listen, Aaron Rodgers was there. Aaron Rodgers was really the one calling the shots. So Nathaniel Hackett, you might be a good offensive coordinator, and you might be a offensive genius, whatever you want to call him, but you still haven't ever been a head coach before. So I think the jury's still out on how well he's going to handle an entire team and not just one side of the football. Kansas City Chiefs, yes, you lose Tyreek Hill. You can't, understate that enough, right? He is one of the best receivers in the league. He is the biggest and scariest deep threat for any defender and or defense as a whole in the entire league, right? The last thing that you ever want to do is give up a touchdown to Tyreek Hill, watch him put up the peace sign and do a backflip into the end zone, because he can do it on any and every single play. So that is going to be absolutely huge. They draft they draft Sky Moore. They have Mecole Hardman, who may be close to the speed of Tyreek Hill, but maybe not just that. So here's the thing, though. They do have a lot of continuity coming back. You still have Andy Reid. You still have Eric Bieniemy. You still have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the running game, right? They finally got Orlando Brown in that situation kind of squared away. He reported the training camp. So at least from an offensive perspective, I think they have a lot more continuity. And even though they are bringing in some new players at the wide receiver position, it's tough for me to say that they are overrated because of the key pieces that they have in place and the fact that they've been there for multiple years. Now, you're 100% right. On defense, I don't trust them with a lick, right?
No, it's not good at all.
Not good last year. They lost pieces. Yes, they did add George Karlaftis, if I'm saying his name correctly. If I'm not, I'm sorry. And I do like their linebacker that they drafted last year. He's coming into his second year, but in the secondary, they're thin. You lose the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. You lose Contavious Ward. So the secondary is going to have to show up. And when you're going up in that division with all those quarterbacks and receivers, yes, I think that defense is going to give up a lot of points. I think there's going to be a lot of high-scoring games. It's just tough for me to say they're overrated, because as long as Andy Reid's on that sideline, and as long as Patrick Mahomes is under center, and as long as those two are gelling, it's tough to go against them, man. And the other thing that I will say, they have beaten the Bills. They have the Bills number. Now, maybe because Tyreek Hill is not there and because they have some young guys that have to step up, maybe the Bills leapfrog them this upcoming season. But the Bills haven't beat the Chiefs yet. So the Bills still have to go out and prove it. Right now, the Chiefs still hold that mantle. And if I remember you correctly, when you were saying, you said the Chiefs had their number. They don't yet. The Bills need to go out and prove it, because the Chiefs still own that as of right now.
Yeah, I if I did say they have their number, that's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to say that I could pass this year. That's what I was trying to say. But I mean, Jared, here's the other thing, and this is why I think we put all the AFC West teams in there, okay, as underrated and overrated. And maybe my Raiders pick wasn't the best because of the schedule. I mean, not only do they have to play each other 6 times. The Chiefs, they play the Cardinals in Arizona week 1. Okay. They play Indianapolis, at Tampa Bay, Buffalo, San Francisco, the Rams. I mean, this is a horrible schedule. The Cincinnati Bengals. This is, for as far as the non-division goes, I mean, we're looking at 5, 6, 7 playoff team. I think it's got to be lower, right? Maybe the AFC West doesn't have 4 playoff teams just because they chop each other down so bad, But I mean, holy hell! When you actually look at the Chiefs' schedule, it is bad. It's not good.
That's what happens when you're a first place winner, right? That following season, you're playing other first place teams. You're playing a tougher schedule. That's how it goes.
The Cardinals week 1, what a game that is, right? What a game that is. All this stupid turmoil with Cardinals in the offseason. For Cliff to go and beat Patrick Mahomes would be insane. I'm already getting excited. Okay, Jerry, was there anything else in the NFL you wanted to talk about? Did you want to mention any other teams, any other kind of news that went on, or should we head to golf?
No, listen, let's keep it there for now, right? That was a good tease. That was a good kind of start to the
I like.
introductory NFL season. I think as the weeks go forward, next week we're going to continue to talk, and I think we're going to keep building and building on the NFL until the season gets here. So we don't want to give away too much information here. We got to check into next week's show where we continue to ramp up, and I think each week we'll go longer and longer on the NFL, NFL topics until we get to the season, and then it's just fall in NFL, right? So we're in NFL mode right now, but we don't want to give
Sure.
out everything. You got to tune in week to week, and we will continue to build on those news stories and on those topics. So yeah, no, let's move on, man. We got LIV Golf to talk about. You've been wanting to talk about this forever. Let's go.
I do. No, and I haven't been. Haven't had the outlet to talk about this as much. It's a political issue, and it's there's a lot to this. Okay, if you guys do not follow golf and don't know what the LIV Tour is and why people bring 9/11 up with this whole thing, here's the spiel. Okay, the LIV Tour, the LIV Tour, it is a reimagining of golf, professional golf. It's shotgun starts, which don't happen in the PGA. That means that every golfer starts at the exact same time on a different hole. The LIV stands for 54. It's 54 holes, and I believe it's 54 golfers as well. Okay, awesome. They play music during the competitions while golfers are playing. There's music. There's pop music playing in the background. Not super loud, but much like a lot of us do when we're on the course, you'll have a little speaker and you'll play some music, right? It's a pretty cool deal. Fans get a lot more access. The players are encouraged to talk to fans, to interact with them. That's awesome. Problem is, this tour is backed 100% by the Saudi Arabian government, okay? And the Saudi Arabian government obviously is extremely controversial. You have 9/11 from 20 plus years ago. You also have James Khashoggi, the journalist that was murdered by that government potentially. There's a lot to this. Then what has happened is that you've had some of the biggest names from the PGA Tour go over to LIV Golf and legitimately have started playing. Okay. The reason for that is the money that the Saudi Arabian government is giving out to these players. It's guaranteed contracts, which have never happened before in the PGA Tour. The prize money to win any tournament is over $4 million. I think the highest on the PGA Tour is about 2 something. Okay, so they're doubling up money to win at some random course in New Jersey. Okay, there's a lot to this. PGA Tour has then reacted by suspending players, intentionally giving them bad tee times in the biggest tournaments, the British Open, the US Open, to try to get these guys not to win those tournaments. Okay, this is a big deal. It's changing golf forever. There's so many guys that have moved on. I'll get to that in a second. Jared Smith, I got to get your reaction to this. I got to get your thoughts. I know you did not follow golf, but this is crazy going on. It's a reimagining of golf, and there is a bad guy and a good guy, and really you can go to both sides in some ways with the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. Your thoughts on this whole thing going on in the world of golf?
No, and here's the thing that kind of gets me is you're right. This is unprecedented, right? We have not ever in the history of golf, from the moment that it started, however 100 years, however long ago, we have not seen another competitor, another league come in and challenge the PGA Tour, right? And the main thing is the money. I think if the money was not there, yes, it's cool to go to a golfing event and hear some music and have the players be encouraged to be more proactive and engaging with the fans, taking autographs. It's not so much a serious structured event where you have to be quiet every time someone's teeing off, or you know what I mean? Like, you can't take a picture, you can't bring your cell phone. They are encouraging a more fun environment, fun atmosphere where people want to come out, right? It's not just the old traditional way. So I understand that, but at the end of the day, this is about the money, and you're right, the guaranteed contracts, because in the PGA Tour, it was not guaranteed, right? You had to go and you really had to show out. Well, here with these contracts, guess what? If you don't win, you're still getting paid on the back end, right? So there's, to me, less incentive to maybe want to practice every single day, maybe want to go out and put your absolute best foot forward, because even if you don't win, you don't come first, second, third place, you're not winning that $4 million prize, bucket prize to be first. I still got my $100 million contract that I signed. That's guaranteed. I'm still living good. I'm all right now. Obviously, endorsements are a huge deal in golf with the PGA Tour specifically. And so, those have taken a hit as well. But I think that the biggest takeaway for me is that the PGA Tour, for the first time ever, is now challenged. And they have never, ever been challenged before. They have always stood at the top of the mountain, and there has never been anyone else who has even gotten close to smelling them or sniffing them or even getting a glimpse of touching them and reaching them. So now it's on, what's the PGA Tour going to do in response? And we've obviously seen that by some of these suspensions and the negative backlash that they have tried to portray on the LIV Golf Tour, right? The one thing I will say is, I think the PGA, I'm not saying that they are completely wrong in their ways and their thinking, but I will say that, you know what, maybe it is time for them to come to the times. Like, this is 2022, and if you want to gain that following of our generation and the generations after us, you got to be able to adapt and change and make golf fun. Like, yes, it's fun to go out and play 18 holes, and it's still fun to turn on SportsCenter and watch Tiger Woods or, a PGA tournament go on the Masters. But I don't have a lot of friends that are my age that are super into golf. I've talked more about the LIV Tour with my friends than I have about the PGA Tour, and that's simply because there's a flair.
Yeah.
There's like a just a new sense, right, of like urgency going on with the LIV Tour. So listen, I think the LIV Tour, I don't think is going anywhere. I think you can talk all the backlash you want, and like I said, I'm not backing the LIV Tour, but I think this is really on the PGA Tour to step their game up and adapt with the times. To me, it's adapt or die. You can live off of your old ways and your glory for so long, but eventually you got to be able to adapt and adjust and make it fun and want to keep and retain your golfers, right? It was reported last week, if I'm not mistaken, that the LIV Golf Tour offered Tiger Woods close to $1 billion. I think it was somewhere around like $800 million, and Tiger Woods turned it down. Obviously, the dude is uber wealthy and does not necessarily need that money, but that just shows you how serious the LIV Golf Tour is, that they offered Tiger Woods close to $1 billion. They're not messing around, right? They are literally giving you a blank check and saying, here you go, write your own number. What's it going to take for you to come over here? So that's just my sense, is that the PGA Tour, the ball's in your court, right? Like, I don't think the LIV Tour is going anywhere. What's the PGA Tour going to do to step up their game and make their game more fun, more competitive, and engaging for our generations and the generations afterwards to keep golf going?
Yeah, no, and Jared, you make a good point. It is kind of on the PGA Tour to compete, because I do think that the political backlash is not going to be enough. And let me just speak on that too, because I can be the one that talks into the controversy a little bit on this show. I understand. I understand, guys, that Saudi Arabia has done some bad things, right? And that them backing this tour, nearly 100% is not a good look for guys like Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka, and even me, who decides to watch these things, okay? But let me give you some examples, okay? The National Basketball Association has been connected with China for a very long time. I think we can all agree that China has done some bad things too, okay? There's numerous U.S. companies that have stuff made in China, okay? It's literally kind of a joke, a meme amongst most Americans that if you see something, it was most likely made in China and not the United States, okay? You can joke about that, but also you can look at it as like, if you want to boycott, you're going to have to boycott most things, because most companies use Chinese things. The New York Yankees, their main sponsor is TikTok. TikTok is backed completely by China and is rumored to be backed by the Chinese government. Okay? So, guys, sometimes, these bad countries can do good things. And I'm not even saying that, I don't even want to get into that point, but if you look around and dive into everything that a company does, pick your favorite company, I guarantee you're going to find something that you don't agree with. Okay. LIV Golf, if you are a golf fan, is doing good for the sport. Okay. If you are not a golf fan, you don't have to care about this. Okay. Because if you're to dive into your own favorite company, or maybe your favorite sport, or your favorite actress or actor, I guarantee you're going to find something that pisses you off, something that is going to make you want to boycott that person or company. So on the political end of this, I think we got to all calm down and look at it. There's plenty of countries out there that do terrible things, do great things. And in this case, if you don't like golf, just stay away from it, guys. It's not for you. If you're a PGA Tour guy, you're old school. I have family members that are PGA Tour till they die, apparently. Okay. After hearing about the LIV Tour, that's fine. We can't have everybody love the LIV Tour, because then the PGA Tour is going to disappear, right? And I know PGA Tour guys. I work with some of them at work, and I don't want them to not have a job. Okay. So I'm just throwing it out there. Think about it. If you look at every single company, you're going to find some weird stuff, okay? Especially some of the top here in the U.S., okay? So that's my take on it. Just to give you guys some factors on the money that's being shelled out, as Jared did mention, a potential billion-dollar contract with Tiger Woods. Phil Mickelson is apparently making $200 million a year to participate in 18 events over the next 2 years. Dustin Johnson, $125 million. He was offered $25 extra million just to play alongside Mickelson in the first tournament. Okay, crazy money we're throwing out here. Bryson DeChambeau, $100 million. That's just to join the tour. If he wins a tournament, it's $4 million in his bank account. It's crazy stuff. Here's an interesting one. James Pyatt. Anybody know who James Pyatt is? Anybody?
Who?
No, right?
Who?
He's a U.S. amateur champion. They gave him $1 million to join the tour. $1 million. He's an amateur. Okay? This is what we're talking about. The money being thrown out here. Pat Perez, one of the more fun guys to watch in golf. $10 million to join. He was seen partying on the LIV plane, which is essentially one of those Arab Emirates planes, and there's a full bar and full service, and everybody's just having a party. Okay? Yeah, guys, they're revolutionizing golf. And all I say is I may agree or disagree with many things Saudi Arabia does, but for golf, as a sports fan, this is entertaining as hell. And again, you have to look at what your favorite company, what some of the top companies in the world, look at Apple, look at Nike, look at all these things. There's always that really thing that works, but you don't boycott their stuff, do you? You have an iPhone. You buy Nike shoes. I'm just throwing it out there. We got to think more deeper into this and not always react with protest. Let's hate Phil Mickelson. Let's hate Brian. Stop. Okay. If you look what phone you're videotaping the protest on. Stop it. Come on. Okay. That's my take. Jared, any thoughts on kind of just the political aspect of this, the whole Saudi Arabian thing? Do you agree, disagree with me on any of this? What's your take on that?
No, I think what you said is pure and what you truly believe. I think what a lot of Americans would say to that is, you are just blind to everything else and you will follow the money, right? I think that's what the main argument of a lot of people will say is all they got to do is throw money, a lot of money, by the way, at you, and you're going to jump on it, right? You're not going to think about 9/11. You're not going to think about some of the other things that Saudi Arabia has done or what they stand for. It is purely about the money. You can say that Saudi Arabia was offering so much money, and the LIV Tour was offering so much money to just purposely make these guys not even think about it, right? Like when you offer someone $200 million, $100 million guaranteed in a sport that has never had guaranteed contracts before, it's almost just like how can you pass that up, right? Like oh my gosh, you have to be a fool to pass that up, irregardless of who it's coming from or where it's coming from. But I think the other side, the flip side to it is, so you're just completely driven by money now, right? Because like I mentioned when I was speaking, is the guaranteed money about this now. Golf is one of those sports that I have played a handful of times in my life, and obviously I suck. I'm horrible. I'm probably one of the worst golfers in the world. You have to practice day in, day out. I don't care if you're Tiger Woods.
Sure.
I don't care if you're me. Like, you have to practice. And so, I'm not saying that these guys aren't going to, but I think the level of competition over time, if the LIV Tour continues to go and continues to flourish, are we going to see these athletes and these competitors continue to have that competitive drive day in and day out to want to go out and practice 2, 3, 4 hours a day, get up super early when they know they have guaranteed contracts, right? Because in the PGA Tour, you got to prove yourself over and over and over again before you start to get those contracts and those sponsorships and before you become big, right? Like, I don't know. I can just see a potential where, like you said, that amateur player that just got $1 million to come play. Like, obviously, I'm sure he's enticed and excited about that $1 million, but it's like, dang, man, I got $1 million and I'm an amateur. You know what I mean? Like, the LIV Tour is literally like coming in front of the PGA Tour and just slapping it in the face with money and just saying, you will never have more money than us. We're just going to throw money at your players, and we're going to keep poaching your players, right? I don't think we're done seeing players transition from the PGA Tour to the LIV Tour. I think obviously Phil Mickelson, those big name guys, but I don't think we're done seeing other players being poached. So I don't agree with it, but I see where obviously the money comes into play. And like I said, who's going to turn down $100 million, man? I don't care where it's coming from. Most people in this world who disagree with the LIV Tour, you throw $100 million in front of their face, they're going to shut up, take that money, and walk away. So to your point,
Right.
It's
Right.
tough. I don't care how much money you've made in the past. Now, Tiger Woods can turn that down because he's already pretty much a billionaire. But most other dudes, you ain't turning down that type of money. It's just we're all human at the end of the day, man. Like, money drives the world. Money, it is what it is. You throw that money in front of people, most people are going to be like, well, I think I can maybe get over some of my
100%.
prejudice or some of what
Yep.
I have going on. Yeah, I'll take that 100 mil. Cool, thank you, man. Yeah. So that's where it is. That's my belief.
Very, very interesting discussion. I'll throw this in there too. Another thing that's super controversial about this tour. So obviously we remember our former president, Donald Trump, right? He the PGA banned using his courses for their tournaments. The LIV Tour, half their events are at Trump courses. Okay, so there's another. Again, it's a very polarizing tour, right? Not only did they say, "Oh, we're going to give away money," oh, yeah, the country hates. Yeah, we're using all his courses too. Okay, so there's still out there. I'm just saying it's another thing, and there's a lot of things to hate about this. There's a lot of things to like. I started with the things I like. There's also things to hate about it. Much like many things in life. All right, Jared, we're coming to the end of the podcast. I just want to throw out here the full slate of football games this weekend. A full slate of football. Okay, for the rest of the year, Jared. For the rest of the year, we're gonna have football on Sundays. This is gonna be awesome. Just throw out there a couple interesting matchups. We talked about two of these teams already on the podcast. The first preseason game. The Hall of Fame, New York Giants versus the New England Patriots. It'll be interesting to see if they throw Daniel Jones out there and Mac Jones, the two Jones brothers, who will not end up being successful quarterbacks, in my opinion. They're playing each other on Thursday. On Friday, another interesting matchup, Jacksonville and Cleveland. We'll probably see Trevor Lawrence, more of that new look offense for Jacksonville. And in Cleveland, you got to see who can play behind Deshaun Watson, because we know he's not playing for the first 6 weeks at least, and most likely not the first 12 weeks at least. So there's another interesting matchup there. There was one more. Seattle and Pittsburgh as well. Another interesting matchup. You obviously have Drew Lock, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll's keeping it close to the vest who he wants to be a starter, even though most likely it should be Drew Lock. Pittsburgh, they have like 11 quarterbacks on their roster. They're vying for a playoff spot. We'll see who plays. It's an interesting game to watch. And then one more is Washington and Carolina, because Carolina has 11 quarterbacks on their roster to try for a playoff spot as well. So a couple interesting games there to watch if you do care about preseason. Jared, your Cowboys play at the Let's Ride Denver Broncos. Yeah, at Denver. And my Cardinals play at the Super Bowl runner-ups, Cincinnati Bengals. I assume we're not going to see any star players in that game for either team. So, interesting games. A couple interesting matchups. Those, Jared, we'll probably end up commenting on those next week, amongst other things, amongst other news. We'll be back next week. We will not be most likely recording this weekend. So enjoy this podcast. This one's done. Once again, I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And we'll see you next week. Enjoy the podcast, guys.